Total war was war in which the line between the soldiers in battle and civilians at home was blurred, and in which the government planned social and economic life to best benefit the troops. The Schlieffen Plan was a German plan in which they intended to quickly attack and defeat Belgium and France before turning their sights on Russia. However, it failed when the Belgian army managed to defend themselves against Germany. France also saved themselves, at one point using all of the taxis of Paris to send the troops to the battlefront. Thanks to advances in technology, weaponry was more advanced than ever. With the invention of machine guns came the advent of trench warfare. Soldiers had to dig trenches for cover from machine gun fire. Trenches were over 400 miles long, stretching from Switzerland to the North Sea. Cigarettes were called coffin nails. Snipers would see the light, take aim on the first puff, and shoot on the second. Commanders were nearly incompetent, often committing the same mistakes over and over again. The Battle of Somme exemplified the horrors of trench warfare. It was a British offensive which took place in northern France in the summer of 1916. The British fired non-stop on the Germans for a week. Then they proceeded through German territory, exhausted and bogged down with heavy backpacks. Many soldiers got stuck in the barbed wire. This made it easy for the Germans to shoot them down once they emerged from the dugouts in which they had been hiding. By November, the British had managed to push the Germans back only 7 miles. 420,000 British, 200,000 French, and 600,000 German lives were lost over this negligible victory. Meanwhile, Germans were able to score major victories in the east at the battles of Tannenberg and the Masurian Lakes against the Russians. The German occupation of the territory created terrible conditions for the people there. The administration used prisoners of war and refugees as forced labor. Animals and crops were stolen from the farmers. 1 in 3 civilians were killed or became refugees. Due to the changing tides of victory and defeat, some formerly neutral territories jumped into war. Italy joined the Triple Entente, and the Ottoman Turks joined Austria, Germany, and the Central Powers. Since Armenia was situated on both the Ottoman and Russian border, they were pulled into the war. In 1915, some Armenians saw the Russians as liberators. This resulted in the Ottoman Turks being backed by the Germans when they deported the Armenian people from their homeland. This became known as the Armenian Genocide. Also in 1915 was the Battle of Gallipoli, when the British failed to take Dardanelles and Constantinople from the Ottoman Turks. The British were successful, however, in turning Arabs against their Turkish rulers. They managed to persuade Hussein, an influential Arab leader, to join their side. Similar victories were scored in Iraq. Some Arab patriots thought a unified Arab nation-state would be formed in the wake of the Ottoman Empire collapse, but the Western powers disappointed them. The war also spread to Africa and East Asia. Over 1 million African and Asian people served in the armies. Over 2 million served as porters to carry equipment. At the beginning of the war, British and France had installed a naval blockade to block trade of the Central Powers. No neutral cargo ships were allowed into Germany. Germany retaliated in 1915 with a highly effective and deadly submarine. That May, Germany sunk the British passenger liner Lusitania, killing around 1,000 people, including 139 U.S. citizens. President Woodrow Wilson adamantly protested, using the tragedy to turn Americans against Germany. In order to avoid war with the U.S., the Germans stopped their submarine warfare for almost 2 years. But in 1917 they resumed. The U.S. entered the war, tipping it in favor of the Triple Entente and the Allies.